Today we are unpopular, so we have no guests. It's just us.
You know, I like doing these every once in a while. It keeps us on our toes.
Me too. I like when we play a board game, a fun board game every once in a while.
Why didn't we play a fun board game today?
I suggested Settlers of Catan repeatedly.
I thought that was for later, not on camera.
Yeah, that'll probably be good for our gaming channel, which will be fun.
But we do have an interesting podcast today, even despite not having games, right?
Do we? That's a lot of assumptions to make at the very beginning.
No, I'm gonna say that with a period and not a question mark.
That's how you said it. There was no question about it.
Yeah, I don't ask questions. I only provide answers.
All right.
I am hereby the worst journalist on the planet.
No, it seems like you're equivalent to most journalists now.
So you're saying I'm big league?
Yep, that's what I'm saying. So anyways, I get in the studio today and I'm greeted by Shelly, who is screaming and clawing at the walls because she has found a very interesting story. She hasn't told me or Matt much about it. It sounds horrific, but she's gonna.
I'm not sure. Screaming and clawing at the walls. What?
I'm speaking my truth.
Okay, fine.
With a period and not a question mark. There we go.
All right. So I had just opened this Wall Street Journal article called "U.S. Companies Aid China's Bid for Chip Dominance Despite Security Concerns."
And we aren't talking about Doritos.
Nope. We are talking about semiconductor chips. So it says Silicon Valley venture capital firms and chip industry giants like Intel are ramping up deals in China's semiconductor industry, alarming U.S. officials. Now, why is this alarming U.S. officials, Chris?
You're throwing it on me?
Or Matt, you're the one who gives answers.
Why are we making sensitive technology in China, period?
No.
Because I can't ask a question because it's not a question mark.
It's not that we are making sensitive technology in China. And it is that U.S. companies
They want a joint venture.
Or they're just giving them money. These venture capital firms, right? They're not doing joint ventures.
You're right. It is venture capital.
They're giving money so that they can make a profit off of these Chinese semiconductor firms.
Yeah, and just so people know, like semiconductors are really important for like all modern technology.
That's why we had a huge car shortage this last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a semiconductor chip shortage.
So essentially, the mainland China's semiconductor industry is like all industries tied to the state and tied to the military with civil military fusion.
Yes, this is the other problem, right?
Right. And so what this means is that American venture capitalists are funding technology that will in part be used for the Chinese military, which, as you know, if you've read any of China's military white papers, they consider themselves at war with the United States. So we're literally funding an army, although indirectly, that wants to be at war with us.
Someday this technology will be used to kill Americans.
And the thing is that China has the reason that there's so much investment going on in China's semiconductor industry is that they have a problem right now. They do not have the advanced technology. They do not have technology as advanced as the US or Taiwan. Taiwan has the biggest semiconductor chip maker in the world, TSMC. So that's actually been talked about as one of the reasons that the Chinese Communist Party may want to take Taiwan sooner.
Well, this is because China's whole technological program of advancement has been to steal intellectual property from other countries, other companies. And so that doesn't necessarily yield you the highest quality tech.
Or you may be just lagging because how quickly can you steal it?
Yeah.
There was a huge problem a few years ago with espionage, corporate espionage at TSMC. Yeah.
Well, one of the challenges with high technology like chip making is that you can steal the theory, but it's very hard to steal the practice of it because these machines are extremely sensitive. You know, depending on like the calibration of the machines and a bunch of other factors, like a semiconductor factory might make, say, 1,000 chips. And out of those 1,000, maybe only 500 of them are made well enough that they can be like that grade of chip they're aiming for. And so the other chips often become like sold as lower grade chips because they're just not perfect like that. And the level of perfection has to be so high. A tenth of a millimeter is far too big of an error to make.
Right? Maybe the reason they're so sensitive is because these semiconductors are being held to such unrealistic standards of perfection.
Yeah, I mean, it's because they're reading too many of these semiconductor magazines. But at any rate,
I feel like you were going for parents or something.
I was like semiconductor beauty magazines.
Yes, and then
you should have had the beauty magazine.
I understood where Matt was coming from.
We're also teaching you about joke craft on this show,
or joke attempts.
Well, no, but my point is, like, fortunately, it's not like you can just steal the plans for what a chip design is and then reverse engineer it.
Immediately do it?
Right, because like you need the manufacturing equipment, and there's many other things that I don't know the details of, right? But it's like, it's certain technologies are like for example, I learned in college physics class how to make a nuclear weapon. But you can
FBI, please do not shut us down.
But like, it's easy to understand the theory of how you take a critical mass of U-235 and split it and releases energy and calculate that, right? But the actual technology into the machinery is extremely difficult, and to get the refined uranium is extremely difficult, right? Like, you need centrifuges, and it's just complicated.
As Iran is finding out,
right?
Yes.
And so, like, how many countries have nuclear weapons? Very few, like less than a dozen.
Even though the understanding of how to make them is
it's essentially
taught in high school classroom.
Well, college at least, but yes, right? So like, and I am at best an amateur at physics, and I understand how to do it. So there's no doubt that like any dictatorship or whatever could figure it out. But again, the amount of money, the amount of resources that goes into it, the extremely specialized knowledge of how to like just take it that last mile. It's extraordinarily difficult.
Well, this is why the Trump and Biden administration have put bans on U.S. companies investing in Chinese companies tied to the military.
Yeah, and they've also banned U.S. chip makers from selling certain types of chip technology to Chinese companies.
And yet...
Yeah, so, and what's interesting, too, is that the Chinese Communist Party is really pushing semiconductors right now, which is, I think, why these venture capital firms are seeing this as a opportunity, right?
We can make money.
Because in the latest 5-year plan that Xi Jinping brought out in 2020, he talked a lot about becoming self-sufficient in things like semiconductor chips, because China is reliant on other countries right now. Mm-hmm. They do not have the technology. So once, for example, the U.S. banned sales to Huawei, Huawei's business took a huge nosedive because they did not have the technology they needed. They had to buy it from the U.S. And so Xi Jinping was like, we need to become self-sufficient. We need to invest in our semiconductor industries so we don't have this problem, while we are also making the rest of the world dependent on our economy and our products. This was in the 5-year plan. It's not a secret.
Yeah, and what better way for China to be self-sufficient than to do it using American venture capital money?
Yeah, I don't want to, just slander venture capital firms, because it's not just venture capital. There are several venture capital firms, Lightspeed, Sequoia Capital, Matrix Partners, Redpoint Ventures, that have made at least 67 investments in Chinese chip sector companies since the start of 2020. According to the Wall Street Journal, there's not clear how much money went into these deals, but probably it was in the billions of dollars.
So at the start of 2020, like, this is when the coronavirus is spreading around the world because the Chinese Communist Party covered it up. I wonder if the people behind these deals ever had a moment of self-reflection where they're like, I wonder, is this a good idea?
Intel, the U.S. chip-making firm, is also backing a Chinese company that is, trying to create these chip design tools, what you're talking about, essentially, the machinery, right?
Right.
So, yeah, this is concerning. And, the U.S. government is also extremely alarmed. And the Biden administration and U.S. lawmakers are apparently talking about trying to pass laws and regulations that will close some of the gaps that allow these companies to do this kind of stuff right now.
I mean, I don't really understand how do our laws define what Chinese companies are tied to the military? Because if you can't invest in a company that's tied to the military, but all Chinese companies are at least indirectly tied to the military, and that the military, by Chinese law, can co-opt any or all of that technology or any or all of those products, then like, how is that not tied? I don't understand. Are we stupid?
Yeah, well, I mean, where you're stupid rich.
Yeah, well, and that's that's the thing.
That's not true. We are smart poor.
Okay, yeah, but I mean, these venture capital firms, right? Or Intel.
Oh man, being stupid sounds amazing.
When the Wall Street Journal tried to ask Intel about this, they defended themselves by saying, "Well, that's a very small portion of our investment. Our China investments are only 10% of our global investments. Like we don't invest that much in China."
Why don't you talk about the billions of dollars we put into the volcano that we throw children into? Come on. But keeping it burning all the time, it takes a lot of pandas to burn up. I don't know how volcanoes work.
I felt like you were going somewhere with that, and then the pandas came in.
Yeah, it was probably not the best choice.
Stupid pandas.
It should have been like, rainforest. Like we have to use so much rainforest timber to keep the volcano hot enough to burn the children. This is Intel's business. Does that count as libel or slander?
Remember last week when our podcast went off the rails at the end?
Yeah. Well, this is the nice thing when it's just us. It's there are no rails.
It's just careening around.
Well,
out of control.
I feel like we're playing bumper cars in like a giant ring that's just the three of us like driving around fast and crashing into each other.
It's a lot of fun.